Hey guys, Joe here, the Joe Madden Sports Podcast, joined this afternoon by Josh Appelbaum, sports betting reporter for VSiN. Josh, welcome to the show.
Joe, thanks so much for having me on. I have never been on the show, but I'm really honored to be on it with you today. So it's great to talk some betting, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. I've wanted you on for a while. It's going to be a great show. We're going to talk some betting, but we're also first. Let's dive into you. How'd you get started in this industry, Josh?
Yeah, so what's funny is, I think a lot of people from the outside think like, I was born betting on sports and it's been my passion forever, but I kind of stumbled into it, Joe. I grew up in Western Massachusetts and I was a big, Red Sox, Bruins, Patriots, Celtics fan. And I played sports. And, when high school ended, I realized, hey, I'm not going to, be a professional athlete here, but I was an English major. I wanted to be a sports writer, work for, a sports publication or cover a team. I went to the University of Vermont, where I was an English major and a journalism minor. And then I was thinking, hey, I'd love to get a job in the industry, but I graduated in 2009, kind of at the height of the Great Recession, and couldn't really find a job anywhere. I moved to Boston with a bunch of my buddies at 21. I started a blog where I was kind of just writing about Boston sports. I worked in a bunch of restaurants. And then I saw randomly, and kind of everything started here, a Craigslist post, Joe, that said a sports betting analytics customer service representative. So I'm like, okay, I don't know much about betting. I'd bet with my friends and, didn't win much, but I actually really enjoyed it. And then I realized, hey, they asked me first just to, reply to emails, answer phones. But this company, Sports Insights, it really changed everything for me because I learned the industry from the inside out. I learned about contrarian betting and betting against the public and looking at percentages and line movement. That's really where I kind of learned over time kind of this style of betting. So kind of set me apart as a contrarian. Joe, I'm kind of one of those persons who when 90% of the public is saying, hammer Tom Brady and the Bucks this weekend, I'll be on the 10% saying bet against the Bucks and take points. So that's kind of how I kind of, made a niche, I guess, in the industry here. Yeah. But then I moved on to VSiN, and it's been great working at VSiN. I have a daily show here, a daily podcast. Sports, what is it? The Betting Across America show, as well as the Market Insights podcast. And also I wrote a book called The Everything Guide to Sports Betting. So that kind of, put into kind of focus all the little things that I've learned over time. So I'm kind of different. I'm kind of the nerdy data, line movement, betting system type guy, Joe. But I think if you're betting on sports, you need at least some sort of guiding philosophy. And that's it for me, trying to look for sharp contrarian plays and trying to take your bias and your gut instinct out of it and really bet based on data and numbers.
Yeah, well, I wish I was talking to you the other day before I bet the Toronto Blue Jays, then found out that everyone and their grandmother was on the Toronto Blue Jays that day. That was a game that they lost 5-1. Who knows what's going to happen to my Jays today? I'm losing faith in them right now after losing their last 5. But let's get back. Why did you move to Boston with your buddies at that point?
So at that point, number one, actually, what's funny is I actually applied to be an SID. It's the Student Information Director for the University of Vermont. So I was in the running. I was like one of the last 3. And if I had gotten that job, I probably would have stayed in Burlington, Vermont and just, worked for UVM. But that didn't happen. So all my buddies, we were trying to figure out, and I come from a great, close group of friends. We all, played baseball and hockey growing up. So we're like, okay, what are we going to do? We graduated college. We're all in debt. What are we going to do? We can't find a job. So we moved to Boston, as Boston sports fans, and having visited a bunch, it always felt like a fun city that I wanted to go to. So yeah, we lived in small apartments. The rent was like, $400 a month at that time in 2009. So had a lot of fun, but really my break was, working outside of Boston at a sports bar called Jerry Remy Sports Bar and Grill, and then getting that break on the North Shore with Sports Insights. So I always, and we were joking before the show, Joe, the Boston accent, hey kid, every now and again it comes out. So yeah, I'm very committed to obviously New England, and I can't wait for Massachusetts to legalize sports betting. That's the big thing that I'm waiting on right now. We're up to like 31 legal states. Massachusetts, they're pretty close. The House and the Senate have differing bills here, but they have a deadline until the end of July to legalize. So fingers crossed. And if that happens, Joe, you have to come to Fenway Park and maybe we can bet on a Jays and Red Sox game.
Absolutely, I have to. I think I have to come for sure. It sounds like an exciting time. Okay, so you're living in Boston. Now we've skipped years and years and years. You're with VSiN now. What was the aha moment? Like, I made it. This is exactly where I should be in life.
So I think the aha moment, and again, this took forever. And like to me, when you're sports betting, you're grinding in obscurity, you're grinding through the ups and the downs. I think you have to have a commitment to yourself and a belief that, hey, when things aren't looking bad, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to stick with it. When things are looking great, you don't get too high or too low. But kind of the aha moment was someone from Simon and Schuster reached out to me, a publication company, and this was right in, I think it was 2018, right before they legalized sports betting. And they kind of said, hey, we've been looking for someone to kind of write a sports betting for dummies type book. And I had done a daily like sports betting hangout, and I was a customer service manager. I really like interacting with other bettors. And really when they reached out and said, we want you to write this book, that was kind of my aha moment. Like, wow, I guess, some of the things that, I didn't really get, not them to say I didn't get credit for, but I was just kind of in a small group and, I wasn't well known at all. And really, I'm play a small role in the sports betting industry, but for them to reach out and say, hey, we want you to write the book. And they told me like, hey, you sound like kind of smart, but you also sound like kind of a regular guy. So we want to kind of reach out and have you connect with, regular bettors. So it's not like too high level, betting analytics, but you can kind of make it, kind of make sense to regular bettors. That was kind of my aha moment, having that book published. And then obviously working at VSiN, it's been really just fantastic. I'm going on my third year here, and really with, so much sports betting information, Joe, and so many, different sports and states legalizing. I'm just really proud to work for VSiN because I feel like we kind of do it the right way. We're never going to say this is a lock or this is a guarantee, and we're going to tout this and say, bet the house on this. It's kind of an approach of, hey, sports betting is difficult. It is hard, but if you kind of really look at the data, the line movement, the information, you can win. So I think it's that honest, transparent approach that to me makes me so proud to work for VSiN.
Absolutely. And you nailed it on the head. When I think of VSiN, I think of honest and transparent. So thank you for everything you're doing over there, Josh. It's great. I want to talk a little bit more about your friend group before we move on to talk about what you're doing at VSiN. Now, you guys, I'm sure, are super competitive because you're a competitive person by nature. Did you win in the way that your career has gone? Like, you get to do sports, you get to talk sports. You all grew up in the sports industry. You guys sit around and everyone look at you and like, hey, Josh, you won.
So I appreciate that, Joe. And it's kind of sometimes like, I have a bunch of buddies, one guy, one friend of mine, Fed, he works in real estate. I have another friend, who does a different type of job. Another one's like works for the state. So every time we hang out, they're always like, man, you have the best job ever, which I really do. And just working in something that you love. But I would say, there are a lot of ups and downs. So I feel like I have the best job in the world, but I think a lot of people are like, oh, you're in sports betting. Every day you're winning. Every day you're living the high life. Sports betting's hard. There are a lot of times where, you have a bad night, or, I have a Market Insights pod where if the podcast doesn't do well, I get a lot of people on Twitter throwing me a lot of shade. So I think it comes with the territory that used to really bother me because it's not really about, winning money and losing money for me at this point. It's more of, I want to be respected in the industry, and I want people to say, hey, he may have won the bet or lost the bet, but anytime you hear me talk about something, that I'm approaching it from an angle of, hey, I feel like we have an edge. I'm not going to say, bet the Warriors tonight just because Steph Curry's great. I'll say, hey, maybe you should bet against the Warriors because the line started here, it moved here. So yeah, I think I have the best job in the world, Joe. But I think sometimes people think, you're living the high life and, you're making a ton of money, and that is all, true in this industry. But also there are a lot of ups and downs. So I think as a bettor, you need to be comfortable with the fact that it's not always, winning bets and sunshine and rainbows. There are tough times, but I think, again, with the ups and downs of betting, it makes you stronger. And really with time, you become more experienced and you become a better bettor. And through losing, I think that's the best way to become a better bettor. You find your weaknesses, you lean on your strengths. But again, I can never complain working in sports betting. I'm not a construction worker, hammering nails, Joe. I'm pretty lucky with what I have right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you remember that first bet that you ever made, Josh?
Oh, that's a good question here. I don't exactly remember the first bet. I do remember when my buddies and I first moved to Boston, and this was, back in the like Bovada days and like the MyBookie days when everyone had to, go offshore to bet. We bet on this game where I feel like it was like a Friday night. We're having a good time. We had a party. We had people over, and we were up like, I think it was a Hawaii game because the Hawaii games always start like at 11 o'clock at night Eastern time. It's always the last game on a Saturday. And I think they were up by like 35 points, and we're having a good time, and we're watching the game. We're feeling like we got a winner. And then they blew it and they lost late and didn't cover the number. So that was the first time to me, like, wow, sports betting is hard. And that was kind of my first bad beat. And that kind of taught me, if you're up, you're never safe. If you're down, you're also never dead. So it's kind of the excitement, the pros and cons of sports betting.
Yeah, it absolutely is an adrenaline rush. Do you think you're an adrenaline junkie at all, Josh?
I kind of am, to be honest with you. I love the sweat. That's kind of one of the first things I love about sports betting. And to me, it's kind of just it's the whole the whole thing together, Joe. It's like you spend all day looking at the numbers, trying to make the smartest bet that you can. You look at the line movement, the percentages. You try to make a case to bet a game, and then you decide, okay, I feel like this is a smart play. I'm going to bet it. So you do all your work throughout the day. Then once the game starts, that's when the fun happens, and you get to get behind your team and root for that team. Or if you're on an over, you're rooting for points. On an under, you're rooting for fewer points, obviously. So I love the sweat. To me, it's one of kind of the greatest adrenaline rushes. Also, it can be a negative side. Sometimes people just want the action and bet too much. But I think that's a great part about sports betting. It really provides one of the rushes that you're really not going to find anywhere else.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Let's talk a little bit more about what you have going on at VSiN right now. You've got your great show. When does that air and when can people catch it?
Yeah, so people can catch the Market Insights podcast. It comes out about 3 p.m. Eastern time every day. I'll tweet that out. It's also on Spotify and Megaphone and all these different platforms. But my show with Mike Pritchard, Betting Across America, it's 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern time every day, so you can tune in. I also joined the Lombardi Line, which is it's a show pretty much all year round, but weekends for football. That's what I get really excited about. You can find me on Twitter at Josh_insights. But yeah, I'm kind of all over the place, Joe. And when you're grinding every day, you try to just put out the best product that you can. So if you're looking for more contrarian-based, data-driven analytics betting, I'm kind of your guy.
Okay, so we have to look a little bit into that in baseball. Now, I know you have some MLB systems that you're liking for this season. What are you liking here?
Yeah, so a couple of things that I look for in baseball, non-division road favorites. So I'm a betting system type guy. What that means is, and I think a lot of people, they say the word trend. And to me, there's a difference between a trend and a betting system. Like a trend could be kind of meaningless. Like it may not have much predictive value. Like if, the Red Sox are 10-0 on Tuesdays, like, okay, that's notable, but is that really predictive of further success? Probably not. But betting systems to me are looking at databases and looking at games and trying to find an edge where no matter who's playing, it's a profitable system. So for example, non-division road favorites in Major League Baseball this year, on the season, they are 148-86. That's a 63% win percentage. It's about a 7% return on investment. So that's an example of a system-based play where number one, chalk does pretty well in baseball. So laying minus numbers, you don't really want to lay those minus 200, minus 300s. But if you can find something like less around minus 130, minus 150, and you're in a non-division spot where that means you don't have to worry about kind of the familiarity of a divisional dog giving you an edge, that's been really my go-to system. So for baseball, I really look at line movement. That's an example of a non-division road favorite system match that I look at. And then also lefty-righty splits, pitching matchups. That's another thing to look toward. But really, it's a lot based on percentages and line movement, like reverse line movement. One team might be getting, only 25% of bets, but the line moves in their favor. And I used to be like, what's going on here? Like, if the line's going away from you, what is that telling us? So anytime you see a team getting less than half the tickets, but the line's going in their direction, that's kind of an auto bet for me. That reverse line move is one of the earliest things I learned in betting, how to identify smart money.
Okay, I love it. Now we've got the NFL right around the corner. You've got any win totals you're looking at based on your systems there, Josh?
Yeah, a couple win totals that I'm looking at centered around Deshaun Watson. So with the Cleveland Browns here, we're waiting on this suspension, and will he be out for the year? Will he be out, for 8 games or more? Upon the kind of the thought process of Deshaun Watson being out quite a bit, 2 win totals that I really like are the Ravens over 9.5 wins, and as well as the Bengals over 9.5 wins. Both of those teams, the Ravens obviously were really injured last year. They only won 8 games, but they were really competitive down the stretch, even after Jackson was hurt. So that team with a good culture, I think coming into this year, maybe you're not as injury prone and those breaks don't go against you. Maybe they go for you. And especially Watson being out, I like the Ravens over 9.5 wins. And then I really love what the Bengals have done. Obviously, Burrow becoming one of those better quarterbacks in the league. You have a really surprise trip to the Super Bowl last year. But that's a team that went 10-7. They really solidified their offensive line. I think Burrow and Chase and that wide receiver core will only get better. I like both those teams over 9.5 wins. So those would be my 2 best NFL win totals.
I love it, Josh. Thank you so much for coming on the Joe Madden Sports Podcast and giving us all this information today. I loved your story into the industry, and you're totally winning out of your friend group. You can tell them I said it too. So, Josh, where can everyone find you again on social media?
Well, I appreciate it, Joe. You're way too kind. I'd love to come on any other time you're interested in having me. And it was a great time talking to you. But yeah, you can find me at Josh_insights on Twitter. You can buy my book, The Everything Guide to Sports Betting, on Amazon. And you can find me pretty much anywhere on VSiN. At VSiN Live is our Twitter handle.
I love it, Josh. Thank you again. Have a fantastic day. You guys, I will be back tomorrow with another Joe Madden Sports podcast. Make sure you go give Josh a follow so you don't miss out on any of his great content. Thanks, guys.